and welcome to the RTO Show. I'm your host, Pete Shau, and today I've got my man, Sean Knupp. Listen, we're going to, and am I saying that right? Is it Knupp? Am I saying that right?
It's a hard K, baby. That's Knupp.
Knupp, okay, all right. Hey, I'm getting educated here. Listen, my man's going to talk about some great things that I really hold to heart when I do this. And that's number one, multi-unit leadership and management. It goes both ways. But a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today, you can take down to the GM level. All right. If anything leadership, anything multi-unit really can be dialed down. So for anybody who's not in that position, don't feel like you need to be. All you got to do is take a long look at the lessons that Sean's going to teach us today. And I promise you're going to be able to apply those. Sean Knupp, I appreciate seeing you today, man. Listen, we were just talking about it, Arona, one of the first Arona people to be on. I appreciate that. You guys have a lot going out there in the RTO space. For real. We appreciate that. Talk to me, my man. How are you doing today? And from what part of the country are you dialing in from?
So, Pete, first, thank you for having me on here. We've a lot of us in Arona have been kind of following the podcast for a long time, and it's amazing watching what you've been growing this thing into. So we feel honored that we're being part of this also. I'm calling into you right now from Southeast Missouri. My hometown is Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And I'm staring out a window right now as the roads are all turning white. And over the next 24 hours, I think we're supposed to have somewhere between 9 and 14 inches of snow. So,
wow. Yeah, that's a little bit of that weather. I don't know. He says that it takes my breath away. Ouch. Right, dude. But so I hate to tell you, it's like maybe 65 outside, and we're gonna have this conversation. I didn't wear a jacket in today. But listen, where you're from, where I'm from, where we're all from, multi-unit management, leadership, thought processes, they're exactly the same. And that's why we're bringing him to you today, because as I'm going through and checking out I'm doing a little background, right? And man, Sean's name comes up all the time and how well he's doing with his guys, how he puts them forward. The first thing that I always see is it's a team effort. This is how we do as a team. And now let me tell you, there's always a coach, right? There's always a coach on a team, and you might have a couple players that kind of are on the front line, but no one does it without the full team. If you have a question on that, you can always look up Michael Jordan's The Last Dance, and he'll tell you, it doesn't matter who he is. You have to do it with a team. So, Sean, tell me, baby, what's going on out there? How do you make it work? Because you've been doing really well, especially what some of us would call a kind of hard 2025. It hasn't been that easy. What I've seen revenues go a little bit up. I've seen customer counts go a little bit down. People are saying, well, it's the economy, it's this, it's that. Well, I mean, I can say all of it. Sometimes the amount of what people have to pay goes up. So that you see the revenue year over year go up a little bit, but then you're seeing the customer count go down, which means that the cost of the agreements are costing a little bit more. And how do you handle that? Well, Sean and his team seem to be doing it pretty darn well. That's why I wanted you on the show, man, because you are just killing it right now. But let's talk a little bit. Let's back up a little bit. Sean, tell me real quick. We want to find out why I think everybody should be listening to what you have to say. What have you accomplished in the last 12 months, 6 months that, you have shined on your team from Arona?
I mean, again, you alluded to that. I have to give my success to my squad. Our region is Region 9 for Arona, and these guys, I couldn't ask for a better group of people to try to stand beside. And I'm very important in that metaphor that I stand beside them, not in front of them. I do take the leadership side of how I wanted to be led from regionals, and I really wanted to. When I need your help, give me help, but otherwise, get out of my way. Let me run. And so I do try to take that approach with the team of, if they've got a different path to success, as long as we get the end result, I try to give a pretty healthy degree of freedom. And I use a metaphor that I stole from one of my mentors is, you and I are both equals. The only difference is if we end up in a tie, I get to break the tie.
Okay. I like that. I like that thought process. So let's go back a little bit, because where you are is not just where you landed. It's a combination of what you've been able to do, how you've grown as a person, how you've grown as a manager, how you've grown as a leader, and the things that got you there. Talk to me a little bit about, you were working since 8. What did that instill in you that still shows up to you and how you run your regions today?
We, grew up in a fairly poor family. And, when you're a kid, you don't realize you're poor until you start to see a lot of your other friends' houses, and you're like, okay.
Amen to that, right? Amen to that.
But it was, at an early age, mowing yards at 7 and 8 years old, paper routes at 9 and 10. And, a lot of those extra things that, if I wanted the stuff that my friends had, a lot of times I had to buy it. And that's, my parents both worked their tails off for us to just have basics, and it's not until you become a provider yourself that you start to realize sometimes the importance and the sacrifices you make that you hide from your kids. So that work ethic, I think, was instilled in me at a pretty early age. And the measure of a man is what he does when nobody's looking.
Absolutely. I love that statement because I completely agree with that. So growing up without the excess, how does that affect how you feel about the customers and the employees that are under some financial pressure as they come into Arona sometimes? Because, listen, we're there for everybody in the community. Okay. But we like to help out the people who are in need, who need something, and understanding where they're coming from, understanding that, hey man, nothing's given to you. You have to earn it. You got to go out there and work and hustle. But every once in a while, it doesn't hurt to have a hand handed out and say, hey, let me help you along. Let me show you what's going on. Let me get you from point A to point B as far as your needs, as far as appliances or furniture, or whatever the case is for your children. Does getting to understand them on a personal level, where your life has been and where it's gone, does that affect and shape the way you do business as a regional?
100% it does. It's, you guys have alluded many times over the course of your podcast with everybody, it's a relationship business. We set lines in the sand, or, Arona's got our standards that we have, and, we'll probably touch base on that a little bit throughout the course of this, but it's a relationship business. We're in this business for the people. I love the comment that Larry Carrico had said once, I'm not selling you a fridge. I'm selling you the milk. I'm selling you the place where you can put it. I'm not selling you this bedroom set. I'm selling you a night's sleep. And I think if you focus too hard on just a profit percentage, or focus too hard on hitting a certain metric, you lose sight of the whole reason we're doing this is because of our customer base, the people. And I think equally as important for our employees, they need a place to come in and feel like they're part of a bigger picture. They are part of a family. And I use the word family nonstop with my group. We are Region 9 fam. So I think that relationship side of our business is, if you don't have that, none of the other things are going to matter.
So building pride, let's say, so you're a Region 9 fam, building pride with that. It's always great to say, hey, there are those days that we succeeded. We did it. We got it. Guys, we're on number 1. We're on number 2. Look where we made it to. How do you share the days where it's been a rough walk? Maybe it might not have been what they consider on a KPI success, but how do you share those lumps with the team when it comes up?
So, and again, a lot of what I do, I said, I can't take too much credit for our success because I've stolen good ideas from a lot of people. And one of the best euphemisms I heard was from one of the mentors I had with Arona. And his simple response to bad days was, all right, guys, today the bear got us. Tomorrow we turn that bear into a rug.
No, I'll never look at a bear rug and say again. I love that. You have a lot of history from where you've been. And I'm not just talking about the 8-year-old Sean. I'm talking about things that you've done. You've also been part of a union, which I will say a lot of guys in the South, we don't have that kind of background. I'm not saying that it couldn't have come from up north and come down, but a lot of guys that are here, born here, bred here, work here, there is no unions down here. But you've been able to take some of your union work and kind of pull that over. Talk to me a little bit. You spent 13 years in a postal union, 8 as a president. Congratulations on that. I don't know if anybody knows that, but he was up there. What did that teach you about strong personalities, about getting everybody together? Because I can only imagine in the union days, especially as a president, you've got a couple of different people. You got Butch Cassidy, you've got the Sundance Kid coming around, but you got to make them part of a team. They have to understand that they're part of the team, that everybody serves this goal. And, you have your individual wins, but it's to further the total cause. How did those days in your union days as president kind of help you to get to where you are now?
A lot of the leadership skills I learned there, I think, kind of delve into the way I want to treat my employees now. I'm a member of management. I'm on this side of the fence right now, but I still have that approach of these employees, and then i.e. these customers, they are my responsibility. I am the one that you guys allow me to be the person that takes care of you. You allow me to be that shepherd. So that a lot of it is, I think, just knowing I've my mindset has always been defending my employees, my, constituents, any of those people. So I still carry that mindset a lot. And then when you kind of describe the differing personalities, in the structure in the union, we had, when, employees feel aggrieved or something and they're going to file a grievance, I had probably my more empathetic personalities at that entry level steward position, because the goal is, we're not filing grievances all the time and tying up the process. The goal is, if something was wrong, then how's the easiest, shortest way to fix it? So the empathetic people I'd have on the front lines a lot to kind of, how do we get this fixed? We got a problem. Let's fix it as quickly for both sides as we can. And then sometimes when you don't agree, some of those, some of those bulldogs I had at the different tiers, because at that point we feel, if this truly was aggrieved, okay, it's time to dig your heels in, draw a line in the sand, and then square your shoulders if you know you're right.
Let me ask you a question, because you said something. You said these are my customers, these are my situations. How important do you feel it is for a GM, for an RM, for somebody in a position in operations to feel that particular way? Not necessarily the way you feel, because that could be, your unique thing, but like in overall, how do you feel that changes, is it necessary for somebody to feel like that ownership, and how well does that serve them in your opinion?
It does. That is a piece, I think, that what most attracted me to Arona when I came on a little over 5 years ago, almost 6, was the ownership levels that we give GMs. The GMs are trained very early on. It's their store. They run this like the owner. They have full financial transparency. They're expected to understand the financial transparency of everything down to every penny. And we'll touch base on these a little bit later, but the approach has always been employees, customer, store. It has to be those 3 things, and in that order. The employees have to be first. If you don't have that family dynamic in the store, you're going to be hard pressed to ever find success. So for a GM, I think a lot of times you have to put your employees' schedules first, sometimes over your own. You've got to do those things so that these guys that, when they don't make as much as the GM, you're not going to find too many employees that feel sorry for their GM when they're making a little more money. So
right.
Take care of your staff, and then from there, you take care of your customers. If you're doing those 2 things, typically the store part, the last piece, kind of takes care of itself.
Hi, I'm Pete Shau. You may know me from the RTO Show podcast, but today I'm doing something a little bit different. Apro and Wow Brands have launched a special project to bring the story of our industry to life like never before. They've asked me to sit down with some of the true legends of rent-to-own, capturing their stories, their impact, and their vision for the future. And now, I get to share those conversations with you straight from the legends themselves. All of this leads to something groundbreaking, though. A new book, The Rent-to-Own Revolution, A Definitive History of Advocacy and Consumer Access, written by Apro CEO Charles Smitherman and Wow Brands CEO Ryan Krass. The book explores the grassroots of RTO, the advocacy that has defined it, and the future that we're building together. Here's where you come in. We're giving away free copies once the book is released. Just head over to the RTORevolution.com and sign up for a chance to receive a copy in early 2026. Don't miss the chance to be among the first to hold this piece of RTO history. That's RTORevolution.com. Check it out and become a part of RTO history. Through all this, would you say handling conflict, negotiation, consistency, accountability, those were kind of bred in those years before you came over? Something that you were able to hold on to, hone your blade, make sure that you understand those 100% before you came over. Those are fundamentals, guys. Just so you don't, if you're not aware, those are the fundamentals of what you need to understand in leadership. And leadership can be at any level. It can be from the account management level. Being a leader doesn't mean you were leading others, but leaders can be led. They can lead others by their actions and what they do and the examples they set. And again, that's why I have Sean on here, because I think he's leading you guys pretty well. So before you come on, you have all this experience. You spent 8 years as a president. Then you're thinking about RTO, and in your own words, there was some skepticism. There was like, I don't know if this is what I want to do yet. And I can't tell you the amount of trepidation I've gone through with a lot of people. I talked to a lot of people, and before they get into business, including myself, I was like, I don't know. I just don't know. And then after it was all done. How did you get through that first part? I mean, you have a lot of experience. You're coming from a different area, especially when you're talking about, postal, and then getting into this. What were your concerns? And then after that, how did those concerns fade away?
So there's a piece, and you alluded to, the way you look at it or coming in, and it's a piece that I don't ever want to forget as how we view our industry to our non-customer base. I was fortunate that, I had a comfortable living at that time and never needed the rent to own world. And I'd see the flyers and the ads of, $100 a month for 2 years. And that was the only thing I understood of it. And I had a pretty negative, existing condition of what this RTO world looked like. And so I actually almost kind of looked down when I was going to take a position as an account manager back in the days. I think back in 2009 or something like that. It feels like 100 years ago, but kind of that notion of is this where I'm at? Is this what I'm about to go do? And it almost felt like it was a step backwards. And then after getting into the role and seeing the help that you do with people, these customers become your extended family, and you realize the service and the benefit you provide, the alternatives that, that 24-month window, that's just the most extreme option. There's 1,000 options between there on getting them to ownership. And so I think it's important. If you spend enough time with these customers, you can't help but fall in love with them. I've heard you say you walk into a store 3-4 years later and they still recognize you and remember you. And that's, you build a relationship with the ones that are there, but I think it's also the image and how we handle the non-customers in educating them to the benefits that we provide are beyond. It's not just that payment for a long time. It's, you can still have the nice things in your house. You can still have, Best Buy products if you're still on a Walmart budget.
Oh, I love that. I'm not stealing that one because that was all him right there, but that was good. That was good, Sean. I might steal it. I'm just saying I might steal it. So you're entering the world with a little skepticism, and you figure out that right then as you're coming through, there is so much more to it, right? What we're offering and the ability to, there is never going to be that ability to give without the offset, right? There is always going to be the offset. But the question isn't always the price. The question is the value. What are you getting for that? Now, Sean's team has done an amazing job at doing that, which we're going to get into. So first, you come in with a lot of knowledge. You see a little skepticism, but you're starting off in the basics, like you said. You start off, now you're in a single store. How did you learn to master that? And what were some of the challenges that you came into from the single store, perspective? I'm coming into this. I haven't done this before. I'm learning that you had to overcome versus where you were and, the application of such to put you on the right level. But you had to learn that. You had to learn the single store thing and figure it out. Where were some of the speed bumps that you had along the way that you said, you know what, I've got to figure this out, or you did, that helped you get to where you are now?
So the first 2 years were probably not the most successful. I went from being an account manager to a general manager. And I think everyone that's ever followed that path can probably relate. You're locked in on where to your buckets, your nons, your cards, whatever you call that, your retention side of it, though, where you close. I'm not going to have any charge offs. To me, in those early years, success was my 32 plus was zero. We didn't have charge offs. Wow. We went 8-9 months with no charge offs, but it truly was probably around year 2 or 3. One of the franchise consultants, and that back in those days, it was Aaron's, came to me and he said, you're running your store like an account manager. And I took that as a compliment at first. And that's when he said, yes, it's risk business. He said, you're selling 3 agreements a week that are no risk. They're not going to burn you. What if you sold 10 agreements a week and 1 or 2 of them burn you? You're still net 6 ahead on that week. And it took a little conversations because I might be a little stubborn at times. But he made me see the difference of starting to see that extra revenue, what it does. And yes, you're gonna get burned a few times, but starting to take that risk over the next probably 3 years. We took the store from I think it was around 600 customers when I took it. And then our peak was a little over 1,020 customers, I think, at our highest mark. So that taking that risk and realizing, there's a reason that they're shopping with us does not equate to whether they're a good or a bad person. And that changed my mindset a lot to start looking at it from a broader, panning back and seeing that thing from a broader picture than the narrow accounts. I'm not going to get burned focus that I had in the beginning.
Sean, I got a question for you. I'm going to put you on the spot. What was his name? What was the person's name that gave you that vision?
Russell Greer.
and you can say it right off the top of your head, right? So I will tell you, Michael Drawn, if you're listening to me, that was my guy. Michael Drawn, at the time, we were Renter's Choice. We were about to convert over to Rent-A-Center because Renter's Choice, I bought Rent-A-Center, and he came in, and I'm going to tell you, I did a no-no. That week I closed at a 0%. I was hustling. I was hard. And I'm like, I got no problem. Yeah, I got to visit it like that Monday. And he was like, hey, let's have a conversation. He was like, no, that is not how you treat your customers. And I didn't understand that. And exactly like you did, it was a mindset that I had to overcome. And I'm glad that somebody stepped in and said that. How many conversations? Now, so let's put it on its ear a little bit. Now that you're in the position that you're in, how many conversations of that have you had with your guys?
What time is it?
Is that a message that you pass along quite a bit?
Yeah. And and again, it's, just trying to make sure that we pan back, see that bigger picture. I've got some tenured guys. I've got a lot of seniority on my team. So I'm very, very blessed in having a handful of guys that have been in this industry as long as I have. I've got one guy on my team who's been in this world longer than I have. So for those guys, they kind of see that bigger picture. It's when I've got the newly promoted, they're watching a P&L, they're watching charge-off dollars, they're watching these things, and not letting that tunnel vision happen, but to keep that camera pan back and see the bigger picture. There'll be a bad week or two here. You may have a bad month. Let's look at all 12 and make sure that we're on the right track. Okay.
So I'm glad you said that. And I want to take a pause off of my directional sheet right here. So how do you get somebody to see, right? Because there are different people out there in the world. And I'm not going to lie to you. When I first came on, it was exactly like you're saying. I was the P&L guy. Like if there was a problem somewhere, I was going to burn that sucker until it was right as rain. But I never understood until I've gotten those visits where it was like, listen, there is a gray area somewhere in there where you might have a day or two where it's not 100%. But did you save the relationship? Did you give that customer the type of feeling, the type of relationship where they know they can come back or they should stay, or you're going to help them out in any way possible before you burn that bridge? And I walked around with a lighter and a thing of matches for quite a long time before I realized that. How do you talk to your guys? How do you get them to understand that there is there's an area where you have to learn the nuances between the P&L all the way down to talking to somebody at the front counter? How do you approach that?
So there is a piece that Arona does that I wish I would have had the tools that Arona has given me over the last 5 years in my previous lifetime in RTO, because of just how much it would have helped me. But one of the things that we do with these guys is the general managers set their own budgets. We kind of create our budget at the beginning of the year, and we just, we're coming out of this over these last probably 4 weeks, but the budget is it's the rolling P&L. And so it's easy to go in and show them, okay, well, last year you lost this many agreements in January, and this is what it did. So we can plug that thing in and just show them, hey, if you can just hold your own in January and not take a bloodbath, but you just find a way to help these guys, because we know what they're doing. They're waiting on W-2s. They're not answering that phone right now because they know there's a check here in just a few weeks. So if it's a bad account that needs to come back, bring it back. If they've gotten too far down, and sometimes the right thing to do is to help them recognize, don't burn this bridge. Let's take a pause right now, because we'll keep this door open for you in the future when you're ready again. But a lot of them, you've got to help them through. So when they see that rolling, keep that thing at 1,000 agreements or 1,100 agreements, whatever that number is, they see in real time, well, okay, now you're set to do 180,000 in profit this year, versus if you lose 10 agreements this month, that drops that down to about 160,000 because of that compounding revenue. So we do, like I said, we teach them to be owners. We want them to have that understanding of, it's a customer-based business. It is a little bit of risk at times, and sometimes the right thing to do is to be the shoulder for them and offer them the financial. You're helping them learn how to do their finances a lot of times.
Yeah, I love, man, when we start talking operations, man, you start getting me all excited over here. I say there's no bad month unless it starts with the J. Those are the hardest months here in Florida. But, I can't tell you how many yearly meetings we've had where we're like, listen, January will set you up. It's one of the hardest months, but like you said, you lose 10 now and you're coming off your peak, right? You're always coming off the peak. You just had, you had your Black Friday, you had your Santa Saturday, whatever case is, you had your December 25th where you're trying to crowd it all in, get everything done. And of course, there's always going to be some comeback, but like, you don't want to lose that edge, because if you can carry that through the entire year next year, just staying level through January can literally turn your entire store around as far as a P&L standpoint. And those things are so important, because not only do you do that, but then your team gets to see a success compounded on success, right? You have a good January, you didn't fall behind. It doesn't feel as terrible as when those payouts start coming in, because come February, March, there's going to be some payouts, but you're not feeling it as much because you didn't lose as much in January. You get to hold on to those revenues, 10 more months of revenues. You can't argue with that. You really can't. So you learn how to be a GM, right? You're getting it through. Can you walk me through a successful week as a GM?
Yeah. The biggest piece for my stores is nobody died and you didn't burn the building down.
You have all your fingers, you're good.
But, especially with my newer GMs, a lot of times in that, it's helping them to navigate what truly is important, and everything is not the sky falling. Be patient, be calm. It's okay. And I've used that silly little euphemism, but when they call me and saying, "Oh, this and this happened, or this or this," okay, well, did anybody die? Did we burn the building down? Okay, well, then that other stuff we can fix. So sometimes my calm helps their calm. But for the successful GM, a successful week starts on Monday morning. As soon as we come in, we have boards that we do for the GMs, the sales managers, the account managers, and obviously everybody's got different acronyms, but I'll use that term because it's universal. But they have their goal of what they have to set for that week. Accounts teams know exactly where they started, where they've got to get to for that to be a good, and we report that every single day. The text thread, I can't tell you how many times this thing's been going off as my team is getting their information that they have to roll up to me in the mornings. And the general manager, you need to be the person who's just the conductor in the middle of the ring of the circus. Keep the accounts team doing what they need to do. Sales teams have a certain percentage of sales they've got to hit every week, and we track that every day. If you miss a number, well, that number's got to carry over to the next day. We still have to hit 3% sales this week. So, and again, I think a lot of times it's the mindset. If you allow a mindset to say, I think this and this is going to happen, like we accept that January is negative, I will challenge you to say, no, it's not. January is going to be positive. And Region 9 right now is up on the month. Our budget we set with the GMs was just to be break even at the end of the month. And if they can just hold water, this year is going to be huge. And right now we're actually up right now. So we've got about a week and a half to kind of hold this thing down, but I have faith in this squad. They're soldiers.
Hold the line, guys. I'm telling you, hold that January line. There is nothing like it, because you will see as your year goes on, it is completely different. So good week. We all come in, we kind of sit down, we figure out where we need to go. We set that roadmap of where we are as far as collections, how much revenues we want to get, how many sales that we need to get, or customers that we want to gain. How do we even level that out? If that's this week, this is going to be a hard week. Let's at least level it out so that we can replace what we lose, come out on top. Now, here comes Saturday. And I want to ask, because a lot of people have been asking me, it used to be Saturday was the day, but I realized that it turned to Friday, and then sometimes it was even another day of the week that was actually our high day, whether we was sales or revenues. Are you still seeing Saturday as the high day, or is it of the week, or is it a different day of the week now?
Mondays are big because all the online leads and everything that came in, from whatever time we closed our doors on Saturday, you've got a ton of leads that have come in over, a 36, almost 48-hour window. There's a lot of activity on Mondays to okay, these guys were on our website. They have a need that we can fulfill, attack it, get them figured out, find what it is. And then Tuesdays and Wednesdays are hit or miss on what they do. But Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays, I think, are pretty strong days. Still, that part still holds true, but it's a lot of the old world used to be you got a truck every week or every 2 weeks or something like that, and all your product came at once. And everything it's an Amazon world. Everybody wants everything now. So we've changed our purchasing program from the traditional vendors, and we're going to get that stuff 10 days, 2 weeks later, to opening up almost anything where we can get it within 24 to 48 hours. And so we incorporate a lot of that because if you want to be competitive, you've got to shop where they want to shop, and they want to shop from the comfort of their couch on their phone and not come into a store. So it's one of the old management books that were around for 100 years, Who Moved My Cheese. And that's, anyone that's read that, I think we're in one of those moments and have been for these last 5 or 6 years, especially post COVID, when people learned or were forced to learn other ways to do things without the immediate social interaction. And it's, you either stick to the old mindsets and get left behind, or you decide something has changed, I have to change with it.
Well, I so agree. I remember the days when Saturdays were huge because we didn't have the credit cards, we didn't have the online pay, we didn't have the auto pays, and now I think that's why Friday kicked up so much. You have all the auto pays that are set up as soon as first thing in the morning comes. They have the money, we take it out. That way, there's no issues as long as we can get our auto pays up to where they need to be. A lot of people didn't have that back when I started. I hate to say that, when I first started, it wasn't like that. In the advent of cards, I mean, we didn't have to wait till they were home or they weren't working that weekend. They can just call it in and make it happen, or do it online or text to pay or whatever, which completely changed the game. But something that you said that I really love to talk about is because the online has shot up. Now, with the induction of COVID, which I hate to say the C word, but it is just out there. I mean, a lot of people decided to shop differently. And what do? They move the cheese. We have to follow that. We have to follow where they are. And that's part of it, is they're sitting at home kind of looking at our stuff, looking through the lineup and saying, hey, I want this, this, and this. We've got to jump on that immediately. So I agree. Mondays was our second biggest day as well. It was just like huge. I mean, between customer sales, acknowledgement, getting all the lineup as far as who missed us this weekend and how can we get that corrected and all that. It was the second biggest day we had too. So I was curious as how it went with that. But now let's talk about how it happened. You're doing great jobs. You're doing 600 to 1100 COR, which is an amazing jump, by the way. When did the multi-unit come to you, and how did that take place?
So I guess my first dabble in multi-unit was probably with the union leadership, because I worked in a building that had a little over 300 employees in it, one of the processing facilities. Everybody thinks of the mailman, the guy that walks around the daytime. We all work night shifts. Somebody had to move that, when he picks and delivers that mail up during the day, somebody's got to work it at night. But we had, 48 satellite offices, because every little town has a post office in it. So learning how to manage from afar and do a lot of these other things, I think that's where it started a little bit. My time with my rent-to-own store, we had some measured success over that 10-year window. And so we were fortunate that, a lot of the powers that be started to trust us to start going out and mentoring at other stores, or we would be the training ground when somebody would hire, or even sometimes a different franchise would hire people. They'd come over to our store in Cape Girardeau and kind of train there. So there was a lot of us feeling honored. And so, when somebody trusts you at that level, you put a lot of time and energy into making sure you don't break that trust at that point. So that was a lot of it. But I will say, when I hired into Arona, I was used to the leadership role of managing a lot of groups of people, as they all look to you for the guidance. And when I came in, I thought it was going to be a lot of the same. And that first year was a pretty steep learning curve on, I don't have everybody just waiting for me to show them what to do. I've got miniature versions of me in these stores. They know the answers. They have their vision of how they want to do it. It was a learning curve. They say you can learn from your mistakes, and I'll just say that first year I learned a lot.
It was a lot of learning. So let me ask you a question. So you have all this leadership ability that you've already had kind of come in, and then you go through, right? And as it comes down, now you're in this spot. But what does it take when you're in your position, right? Let's say you're where you are now, and somebody says, hey, Sean, I'm looking at your team. I mean, you guys are doing very well. We usually pick from the top teams. Who do you think is ready? As you look at your team, and I don't want you calling any names. I don't want nobody saying anything. You called me out on the show. But like, as you're looking at the team that you have, what are the qualifications that you would say, what makes you comfortable enough to say, this is going to be Sean's pick, and this is why I would pick this person? Not necessarily because they're old enough or they've seasoned, but what is it you look at and say, whether it be their leadership ability, whether it be, that they've trained, they're just mentally ready. Like, what do you look at?
So I kind of take that approach now with my group that I took as a general manager. And as a general manager, I felt an obligation. I needed to be grooming my replacement all the time. So I would, have the sales manager, the account manager, if I'm grooming them to become a GM, they start sitting in on doing interviews. Then they start doing the interviews while I just watch it and kind of, tweak and edit here and there. Schedules, inventory management, ordering, all those things. Every time I'm doing something, somebody can learn from that. So I always wanted to stop for a moment, pull them in and say, hey, here's kind of an extreme scenario. Come over here. Let's walk through this together. So I've kind of got a few people on my team that I'm fortunate right now. But if I take a vacation, I turn my codes over to somebody else and I have them, okay, here's the plan. This is what I still want done, but you guys know how I do these things. And I let them run the region for a week. Or if I've got different things, I have them kind of take that role on a little bit because one, it just helps if if you're a GM, if you can have a store running where you've got 2 or 3 other GMs in there, they're just waiting on that spot, your store is kicking. And so that's kind of what I want with this group is I really want a team with the 8 locations that I've got right now. My ultimate goal is I have 8 people that are just regional managers. They're just waiting on the spot. And so a lot of that is just kind of helping them. But the things I look for is kind of paying that camera back. Look at the big picture. You've got to not look at your store because you are out here in rural county USA. This store is in inner city USA, and you have very, very differing dynamics there. But also in allowing the freedom, don't be careful because you kind of get to success levels by being a little bit of a control freak. You don't let anything fall on stage while you're there, but taking that time to listen to the other guys, hear what they have to say, allowing them to try it sometimes. And sometimes you know what, I think we're gonna fall on our face in this one, but if I'm gonna build trust and do these things, sometimes I gotta let them at least make that mistake and then, okay, you know what, let's try this way now.
Like, there's so many times that I unfortunately see that some GMs, they don't do that. They hold on to what they have, right? And they control the show, but they forget to pass on the knowledge that they have in the situations they have. And I know sometimes that there's always a situation where like, we're doing this, it's hard, I need to really be a hold of this. But to have somebody alongside of you and say, this is how you control the mass. This is how you control the craziness that's going on right now. You focus on these 3 things, or you make this your Northern Star, and everything else has to line up to that situation. This is how you rally the troops. This is how you get control of the situation. And, and I'm not saying it's not getting done. I'm just saying that on certain points, I think that we forget to do that when the time comes to pull somebody along and say, hey, it's the craziest it's going to be right now. This is when you get your feet wet. This is a great time to kind of let's do this together and figure it all out. I love the idea. 8 core standards that Arona holds. They're on posters in every store, everything. And there are 8 metrics that we require everybody lives by, but one of them is hiring and development. And so we've put a lot of time into, the interview process and what you look for and doing behavioral based interviews, finding the right people to come in, but then it doesn't stop there. It's the development side. And I think a good GM, as you're training your second up how to be a GM, you also need to be training them how to be a developer. If they have a delivery driver under them, or they have a second accounts associate under them and there's a tier, then I think the approach should be, you don't manage that accounts associate, your account manager manages them. So you help them start to set plans for the day and develop those people. But it's the developing side. I'm with you there in lockstep. You've got to put that time and energy into them because they feel the pride for you investing in them, but ultimately it helps you. Yeah. Well, and it makes the choice easier. If somebody's ready to go versus somebody that you're trying to get ready to go and say, that's the person I'd select next. And here's why, because they can do my job. Not necessarily as well as I can because I don't have the experience, but if they walk in, they're not going to be kind of sink or swim. They're going to be able to control what's going on. And with a little bit of help, they can make it, be very successful. And that's usually where you want it to be. You know what I mean? You want somebody to be able to step in and just handle some business. I will say there's a couple of times that, when you mentioned that, I love the idea. When you mention Arona, you get excited about that. What is it about Arona that is different from where you've been that you say, you know what, I am glad to be here with this company?
This company, more than any place I think I've ever worked for, the amount of caring that they have for employees. And I am just an employee. Tom Bernal is our owner. I've got divisional vice president that's over me, and I've got my COO, Jason Coombs, who is the gentleman that actually convinced me to get back into RTO, because I had stepped away from RTO for a while and actually gotten into the banking and finance world. And when somebody tried to recruit me back, I kind of laughed. I'm like, no, dude, I literally have banker hours. I'm good. Right. And meeting with Jason, I sat at a table, and within 20 minutes, his passion and what exuded off of him, I was just, son of a biscuit. I'm getting back into RTO. And so the number of times I've seen this company, the company drives hard. We are very upfront about how hard we drive. We are going to be number one. When that happens, don't know, but we have done nothing but grow and continue to grow. And we're building what we think is a very expandable platform. And we've, done quite a few purchases over the last 3 years, and we're getting bigger. But the owner has made it very clear it is about the employees, it is about the staff, and and I've had conversations with other people, and there's always a little bit of recruiting, and I headhunt people, and sometimes people headhunt us. And I'm pretty loyal to this company. It's just, I think the way they handle the approach with employees and customers mirrors the things that are in my heart. And so I couldn't work for a company where I felt like I had to put a face on every time to do things. And with this company, I think they see it the same way. And I think everybody takes care of their customers. That's not to ever knock a different brand of any kind. Everybody has a place. They have customers that are loyal to them. But there's a pretty strong sense of pride. And I wear that Arona logo.
Hey everyone, it's Pete Shau here from the RTO Show podcast, and I want to tell you about a company that's making a real difference in the rent-to-own space, Wow Brands. I've seen firsthand how they approach marketing. And let me tell you, it's not just about ads. Wow Brands builds complete digital ecosystems designed specifically for the rent-to-own industry. Their e-commerce and lead generation strategies are built to bring in qualified leads. And did I mention that they are actively working with the rent-to-own industry while also being members of APRO and TRIB? Listen, these folks are passionate problem solvers. They don't just slap something together. They design, build, and scale the kind of digital retail tools your business needs and your customers actually want. So if you're serious about growing, reach out to Wow Brands at wowbrands.com. I trust them, and I think you will too.
Is passion the unsung hero? Is it the unsaid superpower? Because I know that people, they're facing an uphill battle, and it's like, you know what? That passion, that idea that there's nothing that you're going to do that's going to take away the way I feel about this situation, and it's going to happen one way or another. I can see that when you talk. It's great, man. I love that. I love that energy.
Good day. Have a good day.
That's it, man. Let's do it. So, as you go from single unit to multi-unit, walk me through a typical week now. It's not the same as when you were, running a store. It's got to look a little bit different. For some of the listeners that are out there, what does a week seem like to somebody who's doing very well in the position? What do you do to get yourself there and your team there?
So a lot of it is still, the end goal is the same. We need to be at a certain % of growth by the end of a week. There's different weeks. You've got charge-offs on certain periods of time. You've got different promotions that sales are going to be stronger. First, third, 15th, none of that's changed. Payouts are going to be heavier on certain days. So, and a lot of it is kind of understanding the store. 2 stores can be down, but that down's very different. One store is down because they're returning everybody. The charge-offs are through the roof. They have a very different problem that's going on than a store that's down because we just haven't had strong sales volume. We haven't had this. I've got an accounts guy running a store. Nothing slips through the cracks, but we're not growing. And so I think some of that is understanding each store and not trying to manage them from this blanket policy. Everybody do this and it will work. So for me, it is kind of dialing in. I've got a ton of spreadsheets that I start with in the morning that they paint a picture for me. I kind of plug in our numbers. I see who's where. And then I try to help them in bite-sized chunks. Okay, if you're 4% off of this metric, you're not going to fix 4% in one day. But if you got 4 days left, then obviously 1% a day isn't going to do it. It needs to be 1.5. So for you today, this needs to be what you guys are. So let's set a goal today of you do this. And while you don't get the win yet, you move that needle closer. And then tomorrow we got to do the same thing. And then I start my morning text off at 8 a.m. to my group. It is the same text thread, which I won't say, but I start with the same message every morning. And I had this approach as a general manager for a long time. The store will mirror the manager. People have said that for 100 years in any kind of leadership roles. So as a manager, if you're negative, if you had a bad day, if you let that one customer that kind of got under your skin carry over to the next customer, it starts to breed that toxicity. And so I think the biggest thing for me with my group, but also for general managers in their store, you got to be the same person every day. You're human. You'll have a bad day. You'll say something off the cuff that you let fly. You handled a correction with an employee a little more sternly than when you look back at it, you're like, I probably carried 3 things or the issue that happened at home or anything else into that conversation. And so I think just be the boss that you want to have.
That's a powerful statement. So let's shift it a little bit. I'm going to go to the A word. It's a hard word. Accountability. As you're doing all this, you want to you want to be loyal to the situation. You want to be loyal to your people, but there's always got to be that accountability, right? You can't everybody just can't be going sideways and going crazy, and it just doesn't work that way. To be successful, you have to have it. How do you use it? How do you implement it? How do you realize when you facing a situation, this is the accountability that I want to have from it? The beforehand, the afterhand, whatever your thought process is, because to be successful, they have to know that they've got to stay within bounds. And that's just the way it is. And you don't really want to take that, that drive from them, but you have to implement it in a way where they understand there are rules to this game, regardless of the situation. Sean, how do you do that?
So for me, I've always, and this probably goes back to kind of some of the union leadership and defending employees. One thing that we were very paramount then, and I've used this through my entire leadership career, is when you have those accountability discussions, is it a coaching and a corrective action, or is it discipline? If you just slap someone's hand and say, hey, you didn't do this, and I'm going to put you on paper, that's defeatism. That is, you're never going to get their buy-in from it. So it takes time to say, okay, look, we missed that mark. So here's what I want to do. I want you to give me your goals. If you closed that 4% over, can you close within 2% of being over this week? So tell me how you do that. What's your plan? And I try to allow that. If we, in accounts time, sometimes you've got to have some evenings that you run a little past supper time to get things done. And so I try to tell the guys, all right, we know we're off track. That takes a few weeks to get done. So next week you pick the 3 nights that you need to be running, because people have families. I've never been a fan of it's a Tuesday. I just saw a report and then everybody's got to run, because I don't know, your kid has a parent teacher conference tonight. Your spouse is still at home recovering and you're just trying to get to an 8-hour day and get back home. There's so many dynamics to us just being humans. So I try to allow them, you guys know we're off track. So set the plan. Tell me what the plan is. I may tweak it and edit it a little bit. But the buy-in comes from them creating their plan. And then when the success happens, that's that 1-minute manager.
Oh, I love that book. There's so many 1-minute managers out there. You guys need to read that if you haven't. One thing that I used to love to do is get in the mindset, right? So we sit down and talk, and you obviously want to bring up what happened first. Okay, this was the goal. This was the set. This is what we were going to do. This is what ended up happening. But I always wanted to sit down and go, I would like to believe that 99.9% of the people that I sat down with had a good intention. It might not have worked out that way. What was your mindset? Where were you at the thought process of when this came up? What did you intend to do? Did you intend to did you get upset and just reach out to that customer and say, hey, you missed that commitment? Come on, Ms. Jones, can't do that. Was the idea to get that payment immediately when you called? Is that how it happened? And then you realized that you were in a mindset that you weren't going to get that payment? Because you know what? If somebody called you in that mindset, that probably wouldn't get you to do anything either, right? Well, where were you at? Where were you thinking? And obviously, they're going to see it in 100 different ways. And the thought process was always, okay, let's tweak that and figure out where that might need to change just a little bit. Where was your mindset? Were you thinking on point? Were you trying to go home? And it's okay to say that, right? You got to create that safe space, and it's okay to say that. I might tell you why it's wrong, but it's okay to, say, hey, listen, I was in this mindset. I was doing this. I had one account left to get my numbers. I knew it was getting late. I kind of hammered on the phone or whatever the case is, and kind of bring them back. But I love your foresight on that, and just kind of get their buy-in on how to solve that problem, because the truth is, not everybody's going to want to make that, puzzle the same way. As long as you make the puzzle, it doesn't matter whether you start at the corners or the side first, or you want to pick the shiny rows in the middle and grow on from there. Whatever works, get their buy-in on that. And I love that idea.
I like that puzzle analogy. I'm going to steal that. As I said, I steal from everybody to build. And I use the one similar with, if the end result is to be at a 6, my path might be 3 + 3. Your path might be 2 + 6, 2 + 4. Yeah. So if you have a different path to get there, but you get there, I'm okay with it. And then kind of finding out if you don't get there, normally it's a front end process, not an end process. Make sure that you're not just being reactionary, like what you just said. What was that phone call like? What was your tone like? How stern were you with someone? Are you bringing a ton of bricks on them when they're 6 days late?
Yeah. Yeah, did you just get off your 15 plus calls and you just called that one person like, oh, hold on a little bit, Ms. Jones still loves you, okay? She's going to be in here on Friday. Talking about all that stuff, and I want to cut to some of this. I mean, how has your definition of leadership changed over these last few years?
I think just going from RTO multi-unit is just a different beast from anything else I had that was even, if I say it's in proximity, it's not. And so I think being a servant leader has probably been the biggest change I can see in myself. I had a person tell me once when I was president of the union, and I had a couple different, board members with me, and I had one that was just an irritant all the time. And I had this older lady say to me once, "Are you wanting to get rid of her because she disagrees with you? Because maybe you need someone around you that will tell you the things a lot of people don't." And that kind of resonated with me. And I've really, that was one of those kind of paradigm moments when my leadership shifted, and it became her name was Ruth, and I won't go past that, but I kept Ruth on close to me because of how differently we did see things. And she would be the eyes sometimes that would see the things that I didn't, because I have a vision of what this looks like, and we're going in that path. And the same thing on social media and everything. We kind of push out the things that we don't always align with, and your TikTok feed aligns with the crap that you just want to watch. So early on, that was me learning. I was building my own algorithm, for lack of a better word. So I think that's probably been one of the biggest changes that I've seen, is just always listening to the people that want to do it differently than I do, and then trying to find where the merit's at in doing it. And if we can't get to success, okay, well then, you know what, I get to break the tie, and let's try this way now.
Yeah, well, you know what, I admire that. I've got a couple guys in my life that do that, a couple of mentors of mine, and I hit a plateau, and I couldn't tell what it was. And it was that I was surrounded by people who kind of thought the same way I did, felt the same way I did, and we just created this echo chamber. And I wanted growth. And so I'm reading books that say something different. And one of them was that if everybody says the same thing, you're probably in the wrong room. And so I started talking to one of my mentors, and like within 5 minutes, he told me what he really thought. He was like, that is the dumbest idea. Why? But, he always backed it up with, what about this? Or what about this situation? Or what, did you forget about that? Or what is your real overall goal, purpose, idea? And I was like, let me go back. I wasn't prepared for this, and it really helped me. It helped me to have people around me who said, Pete, that's, I see where you're coming from. I know your thought processes, but you need to hear something maybe you don't want to hear, or there's thinking out there that doesn't align with yours, and it might actually work better. And you know what? I cannot tell you how much I appreciated that. Ruth, I don't know anything else about you, but I love you. I'm going to tell you, we appreciate that, because it really grows the person who can take that feedback and go, you know what? I don't need you to like my idea. I need you to tell me what's wrong with it. I need you to find the cracks for me, because that's how you build, grow, and get better. I need to know where I'm going wrong. And I don't want to be the guy who's like, hey, I'm a regional. You can't tell me I did anything wrong. No, tell me. I mean, within reason, but tell me, you know what I mean? If it's not right, tell me that it's not right. And then I want to bring you in, because you're the one who stood up and said it. Help me figure this out. What are you saying that I don't see? Because I have this goal. This is where I want to get to be. You obviously see where there's some trepidation there, where there's some wrongs in there. Help me get there. You know, I love those people. Ruth, I love you. I'm just saying that right now. I appreciate it. What advice would you give someone stepping into multi-unit leadership now that and I don't want to put you on this plateau show, but you're doing good. You guys are doing good. What
My
would you say to
squad's doing
somebody
good.
else? Your squad. You know, what would you say to somebody who wants to get into that?
The same as a general manager taking over a regional. I think the respect comes from, you don't just talk it, you walk it. Get in there and jump on a truck and deliver until 8 o'clock at night because the driver was out. Get in there and run field visits and do things with people. I mean, I still, I want to try to find that balance, but I don't ever want to ask someone to do something they haven't seen me already do. And it's, to me, the higher up you go does not mean your workload gets easier. If you're doing it right, the workload, and it is a 6 to 7 day a week job. A lot of times, but I don't fuss about that because I get to do this. Bernal Capital and Arona permit me to do these things, to help these guys to do this. We get the rewards of it and we see some success and that feels good, but I don't ever want to forget that there are 5,000 people that'll trade spots with me right now in a blink of an eye, not knowing anything. And so taking that mindset of I get to do this, that's the biggest piece, is just get in there. My day has to start before my team. I get up every day between 5:30 and 6. I want to have reports. I want to have numbers. If we've got a plan for that day, I need my team to just it helps them to have a lot of those nuances out of the way, because we have 1,000 things we got to do, but at its core element, we rent and we collect.
Oh God, I love it. There we get to the basics, baby. What do? We rent and collect. Listen, dude, we could sit here all day, but as we come to the end, man, as we come around, we come around that corner, because I could talk operations all day. I love operations. Sean, you're killing it, man. I love it. I want to ask you some quick questions. I don't want you to think about them too much. I just want you to answer. We're going to quick fire some questions, and I want to pick your brain just a little bit. How's that sound?
D, all the above.
All right. I made that Christmas tree. What do you mean it wasn't right? And Anthony's over here like, yeah, I made a Christmas tree or two before it. All right. One leadership habit you refuse to compromise on. We already got him thinking. He's already thinking.
Ethics. The one thing I can't do is just don't take shortcuts that compromise you being able to square your shoulders and answer for what you did. So there's always going to be gray areas. I use the old racing, if you didn't trade a little bit of paint, you weren't really racing. So I get the gray areas on somebody fighting a little bit, but just on the ethic line. Never just draw that line. Every action you do, be able to square your shoulders and answer for it.
I always say if anything you do in the dark can be done to light, then you're okay. Don't have a different view of one side or the other. All right. One mistake multi-unit leaders repeat.
That one I'm struggling on. I think, and again, it's you got to the higher levels by being a control freak, and I know I am a control freak, and it is my Achilles heel that is always being tried to keep it at bay. So allowing the influence of other people's opinions to still carry the same weight as your own. Just not getting so tunnel visioned on this is how we get here. This is the path. Everybody do it exactly like this. And allowing the freedom and fluidity between your group.
Sounds good. I'm hoping I'm going to try to stump him with another one. Anthony, let's see if we can do this.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Best advice you've ever received.
I'm going to put it between I have to split it. One, Russell Greer early on in that career, and telling me it's a risk business. Take some risks. Take educated risks, but take the risks. And in the union work, the gentleman, if we had, grievances or things that went up to a state or a national level, this guy he delivered a master class in managing people. And one thing he said was, make sure you treat everything so that even if you're getting everything you asked for, you've got to do it in a way that the other guy felt like he won or he got you. Because the person that felt like they won, they'll come back and negotiate with you every time because they think they've got you. And so it kind of carries over into, if a manager's pushing back and they want to do something different, I'm using my verbiage to kind of guide. I know where I want to land, but there's a lot of times I need them to feel like they got there on their own. That buy-in there. So that may be getting a little more deep and inflective, but I think just letting the managers have to own it. And sometimes you've got to step back and let them do that.
Well, there's a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, has big coverage on that. If you're going to read a book, I suggest from this podcast today, I'm going to say read that book. And last but not least, why RTO leadership, solid leadership, means so much right now.
You've got a lot of people, the new people hiring in have to understand what this new model looks like. And that is that Amazon world, the instant gratification, the things, because if we've got a lot of old dogs that are stuck on, well, you've got to come into the store and do the order form and look at the product, or I've got to meet you face to face. I don't want to do an e-signature online. There are things that are evolving. And so I think the true leadership, we need new. And this is a piece I know I've heard you say a lot. RTO needs new. We're looking at the AI stuff, incorporating that into not just our marketing and campaigning, but also our collecting activity and sales. So I think the leadership has to embrace the changes, because that's going to trickle down. You've got to train these new guys coming in the right way to do these changes. And you've got to get the old dogs coming around to that line of thought of, hey, the cheese moved.
I'm going to tell you guys right now, too, there's a big section in the book, Need to Lead by Dave Burke. He comes across that with old leadership and new people. I love the idea. Sean, you have killed it today. I'm telling you, man, I loved having you on. I tell you, I could do operations all day. But seriously, take some of what he said, apply it to what's going on. Again, you can do this at any level. It could be the GM level. It could be account management. It could be sales. Just be vigilant. It's Russell and Ruth. Russell and Ruth, we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for helping Sean get to where he is, and he's taking some stuff out of you. You guys are being great mentors. Arona has done a great job with you, man, having you on and having you a part of their team. It was a great call on their part. Jason, hey, you knew what you were doing, man. That passion came through. I appreciate it so much. Listen, if you guys have any questions, hit us up at the show, pete@the RTOshowpodcast.com. Ask me any questions you like. Go on any social media, look up the RTO Show, and you're going to see us there. You're probably going to see Sean's face, too, because I'm going to put him out there all over the place. He's got some good answers there that I think we need to share. I'm also going to tell you right now, am I going to see you at LegCon this year? Are you going to go to LegCon? Are you doing LegCon this year?
Oh, no.
No?
Not this year.
Okay.
Next year, I plan on being at it. With MRDA and IRDA, we've got too many other things moving right now, but I plan on getting involved. I want to get into the fellowship.
Well, I'm going to miss Sean this year, but I'm going to see you guys at LegCon. If you have anything that you want to do there, please hit me up at the show. If you go to www.thertoshowpodcast.com, scroll all the way to the bottom, fill out your name, your number, your email, and a reason why you want to go, you might actually join me at LegCon this year. I would love to see you there, but this is only till February 28th, so you got a little bit of time. Make sure you put in the reason you want to go, and maybe we will take you there, and we'll miss Sean this year, but we're going to make it happen. Listen, Sean, I really appreciate you being a part of the show and sharing your knowledge and some of the stuff you've been able to go through, because I really love to feed some of the guys who are watching this, some of the gals, and really them to understand it's leadership, it's multi-leadership, it's single leadership, it's growth, it's understanding, it's education, coming from one of the guys who's doing it very well. So, Sean, I do appreciate it. And I'm going to tell you guys, as always, get your collections low to get your sales high. Have a great one.